I had to change.
It's okay. Let's go.
Ashley, is there music? Because if there is, I can't hear it. Now it's perfect.
Hello and welcome. There you are, Bella. Bella's in Sweden and it's super late. Where did your camera go, Bella? You're missing now. Good day, everyone. Thank you for joining. Oh, today we are going to be diving into the ego hub. This hub is also called the heart and the will. It has the most names of all of the human design centers. So you probably heard it called the heart, the will center, or the ego center. It likes to have its names. So we're going to dive into that. I would love to know if you have a defined or an undefined ego center. We'll have a picture up of the ego. You probably saw it in the intro video, but let me know if you are defined or undefined. And then we'll also go into the archetypes that live there as well. So let me know defined or undefined. If you're new, defined means it is colored in. It's a color. Undefined means that it is white. And if you have no gates in there and it's white, we call that open. So, yeah. Hey, Bella.
Hi there.
Here you are. Everybody is letting us know. We got a lot of defined. Wow. And defined is, the minority here in this hub. Lots of defined wills. We got motivation here. Bella's got an open ego, and I've got a defined ego with a couple gates in it. I have two gates in my will center. Okay, well, if we're ready, let's dive into the slides. So today we're unlocking the ego hub, and here's our key. It's got a lot of hearts. This key represents the ego hub, and the ego hub is connected to the physical heart as well. And obviously, like I said before, it is also referred to as the heart center or the will center as well. So here's the ego hub. And we have decided that the themes of this hub, to simplify, are commitment and willpower. And there's a balance between the willpower and the ego because there's a lot of drive, competition, will in this. And it's important for you to ask yourself, where does my drive come from? From an ego place or a place where I'm serving the tribe, serving my people? And we'll get into that a little bit today. So you can see that this is the ego hub. This is going to be brought to you by the Inner Circle. The Inner Circle is our membership portal, and we have amazing members in that right now. A lot of you are on the live. Hi, thank you so much for being here. So this is open to the public, but we have an intensive that we're doing next week where we're diving into the ego hub. So I believe the date is the 14th, but Monday to Friday we'll be doing an embodiment webinar. We'll be teaching with a masterclass. We'll be doing chart readings, and we'll be having discussions and see what is going to come up, because Bella and I are also very intuitive and we allow things to just drop in. So we have a schedule. So we have yang and yin balanced within that container. Anything that you'd like to say about the ego, this webinar, or the Inner Circle, Bella, before we move on?
It's an ego world, is what Ra used to say. So he says this center only has 4 gates. There's only one center that has less gates, which is the head center. However, it kind of rules the world. And I feel, especially right now, it is important. There are so many different wills globally that are kind of pulling on us. So I feel for the collective right now and the way that we live in our communities, the ego is important. It's important to understand how it works. And like you were saying, Ashley, because 65% at least have an open ego, we are conditioned to prove ourselves and to do all the things that often is more our not self than the true self. So important to learn about the ego. And I have learned or remembered things that I didn't remember I had studied just this week. and there's going to be more. I'm diving deeper into lectures and things that I don't even know if I have really listened to before.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And I feel like sometimes it gets a bad reputation. And when you have it defined, I know when I first learned about it, I was like, oh, competition and will. It all sounds very masculine, but I've learned to really embrace it because it helps me get shit done. It like really is an amazing driving force. And I know that over time, learning about human design and how my energy, I'm a single definition 5/1 generator with a defined will with the gate of shock. And I have the hypnotist as well, which can be a really good salesperson. I could push my will on other people and really make people work really hard for me or prove themselves to me because I'm a really hard worker. It comes naturally to me, and that's who I am. And that's what I value in other people. So to be in my world, you kind of need to be like that. But I have to be very conscious and aware of, Bella has a completely open ego, and the majority of the population, my husband and one of my sons, they both have an open ego. So to put pressure on them is really detrimental in a way.
Yeah, and this is one of the few centers where you and I have opposites. We usually always have the same defined or the same undefined, but for the ego, you have a defined ego, I have it open. For the throat, I have it defined and you have it open. So those are the places as well, because we are in daily, not only contact, but daily have to get things done together, and seeing, especially here with the ego, how different what's ideal for us is, and navigating that for years now and being better at communicating what I need as an open ego and how do you do it best with a defined ego.
Yeah. So voila, here is our ego hub. We mentioned that this is about commitment and willpower. You're going to see that if we just look at the archetypes in this hub, you're going to see the shadow patterns of pride, control, exhaustion, and agitation, which make up a really interesting soup of energy. And if you have a defined ego pushing out these shadow frequencies, the majority of the population that have an open ego will be sampling that and will be learning from you and being conditioned from you as well. So we're going to see and dive into this hub in terms of health, business, and relationship, because we want you to see how important this center is. We call this a hub because it's like a home, and there's 4 archetypes that live in this home. And you're going to see that the hypnotist, archetype 26, lives here. Thunder, archetype 51, lives here. The manager, archetype 21, and the father, archetype 40, live here. So we have a lot of powerhouses that live in the ego hub. And you guys did already mention in the comments if you were defined or undefined, but I'd love to know too, do you have any defined gates in this center? What is defined for you? If you don't have any, because you have a completely open one, then you are not going to have a preferred way of expressing your will. You're going to be gaining wisdom and learning what is truly valuable in life. So like Bella said, like about 35% of the population has this defined, 65% undefined. And this center is, like I said, it's a powerhouse, and it does concern money matters, prestige. It concerns power. It concerns the drive towards freedom. Everybody really is motivated by freedom. And I feel like this center really pushes us to achieve that in this lifetime, for whatever it means to you, whatever freedom means to you. And as long as you are in the energy of serving the tribe, it's the competition energy is not going to squash other people so that you get your freedom, you get your money, you get your power, you get your success and significance. If your ego is operating in a healthy way, you'll tap into, that altruism where you want to serve the tribe. Yeah. Bella, did you want to mention anything else about this hub?
Again, it feels that right now this is super important for us to understand. And I think closer to 2027, when we are pushing something that isn't our true path, but more like an agenda, and an agenda that comes from feeling like we have to prove something to ourselves or the tribe more than anything, that's where it's really going to start to become clear that following your not self or looking at somebody else for how to live your life is not going to work. So very, very important in order for you to know what to commit to is to go follow your strand authority and know what's naturally you have determination to do. If it doesn't come naturally, pushing it, I think, is going to lead us to places that is worse than places we have been before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so some of the questions you might want to ask yourself, whether you have it defined or undefined, is like, what is worth your time and energy? And is your heart in it? Because whether you have a defined ego or not, it's important to ask yourself that. Now, when you have it defined, you can make promises, you can commit to things, and it's important for you, it's healthy for you. Just discerning too, where do you want to use your willpower on if you have it defined? But when it's undefined, you're not here to make promises to yourself or to other people. And you're not here to prove yourself. There's no competition. There's no comparison. That energy is very unhealthy for somebody with a defined ego. And I think that it's more sticky when you have gates there, because you have the gates, you have the energy, but you don't, or you have the gates and the archetypes, but you don't have the energy consistently flowing. So you're going to be, if you have the 21, the manager, it's like, I want to control this, but you don't have the energy to like manage it, to control it. But you have this like need to, and it almost feels like, if I'm not in control, then and that's the shadow. If I'm not in control, then it's not going to be good, and I don't want to be I don't want to be controlled by somebody else, or the hypnotist, like really, really trying super hard to make a sale so that you can prove your worth. And everything is about how many people you can get into your programs, how much money you make every month. And you're going to push yourself into the ground trying to hit those goals. And especially as an undefined, it's not going to be healthy for you. Speaking of
about
which,
the 21, whether you have it or not, like 65% of people trying to control things and others, especially close to 2027, where control is kind of going to be impossible. But you're going to try, if it's undefined and it's your not self, you're kind of stuck on it. So you're going to try even harder to control, and that's going to make everything even more out of control. So that's the 26 is a good one, and the 21 is interesting too. And I guess with the 40, the 21, 45 is that thing I have, and I think it's going to be very, very much more difficult to control even what we have, or for the 21, 45 to know what's worth keeping and having.
I'm starting to really love the 40, because like we call it the father archetype, and it wants to provide, it wants to do good for its family, it wants to fulfill requests. Like it is that bartering. And we have seen that prior to 2027. Right now, the cross of service, we have the 37 and the 40 as like a main player in this game. And it's been this, I want this, are you going to deliver this? And it's like the 40 is the deliverer. And it's like a beautiful archetype of this dad that will do anything for its family. He's like, we need this. Okay, I'll work extra hours, but it's going to be really important in the 40 for you to balance your rest and your relaxation time with the output, the energy you're putting out there. Especially if you have an undefined ego, you're not going to have consistent energy to fulfill the promises that you're making to the other side, the mother, the 37. So, and I think that the 40 always says, no, I can do it by myself. I think part of what the 40 needs to learn is to like allow other people to help you and not carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. So, but I'm starting to appreciate the 40 a lot, because it's a beautiful provider and it wants to take care of the tribe, and the 51 wants to compete. The 51 wants to shock. The 51 wants to be first. And it has the potential to shock people into the love of a greater spirit too. So that one's a really cool one as well. If you have that whole channel, the physiology there is the gallbladder. So whenever we are in competition, maybe when we're in competition, or it's more about I think that gallbladder stones can be a really big shock to come to your system. Like, oh, those are super painful. I haven't experienced them before, but any of these gates in the shadow really can bring a lot of health issues to the heart disease, to the stomach, to the gallbladder, like I said, to the digestive tract. So we're going to see a lot of these issues showing up when you're trying to control everything, or the defined centers are in the shadow, or what you are being, or you're trying to push your will where there is no energy because you're undefined. And I know, Bella, you were kind of on this little kick going into like the health of this. Was there anything that you found really interesting that you wanted to share in terms of health?
I think that's what we're going to do in the intensive more in detail, but just understanding or remembering, because I think many of us, we think spleen and health, but really they are working together through that channel 4426, the transmitter. Like that's really the basis of our well-being. So at least as important for our well-being is our ego, not just the spleen. And I can say with a wide open ego with no gates, I know that that's the place where I could have killed myself many times because I was in the not self. And because there is this power in that center to do it to the, like we say often that the 2838, which I also have, is to the last drop of blood. But I think that the conditioning of the ego is actually beyond the last drop of blood because it's so powerful. And I think that also learning about being able to say, I don't work well under pressure. Actually, let's do this another way is huge for my well-being. It's just huge. And even, I have been up to like 3:30 these last nights because with 9 hours of time difference. But even like last night, it was like I came to a point where I said, no, I'm not going to be up to 3:30 because I have to be up at 7 and there is no other way. So I'm not going to do that. But it's so easy for the open ego to not say no. And it was funny because I had this reflection. Somebody was helping my dad who comes, they have like different people, but he was not supposed to come today, but he came. He's 20 years old. He has a son who's 1 year old and his wife is 2 years younger. He's from Somalia. And he said, I worked like 360 hours this month or something. And they called me today and they said that two other people were sick and there was only one person to help a whole pool of older people. So I said yes. And he said, like, I didn't have the energy and I was going to say no, but I heard myself say yes. And that often happens. I never say no when my boss calls me. And I was saying, because he knows I'm a coach, like, I've explained a little bit and I'm like, that's exactly what we're going to speak about today. When you should say no and you still say yes, because some kind of conditioning, you start to think about the tribe, the older people that will sit there alone and not be able to go to bed or eat, and then you do it. So it was so interesting. And also like to have it in such a young person that has so much responsibility, 2 different jobs and a little son, like he's 20, like, it's a child still. So that was that. And that has a huge impact on our well-being. And his boss had even told him, you have to take vacation. Other people might not even get 4 weeks vacation, which everybody usually gets in Sweden. But his boss had said, if you need 7 weeks to go to Somalia or whatever you need, take 7 weeks. Because also she was appreciating how much he does for the tribe, the company in a way is a tribe, and especially with what they are doing, it even feels more like the tribe because that's kind of in the realm that they're working. So that was just before now. So it was,
of course,
very telling.
That's perfect. I think today what we're going to try to illuminate is how the ego hub can play different roles in health, in relationships, and business. Because one thing that I've been discovering and uncovering, because in my defined ego, I have the 26.1 and I have the 51.6. So my attraction sphere is 51.6 and my unconscious Saturn is the 26.1. And I've kind of been investigating the whole realm of marketing. Now we call it the hypnotist, but the 26 is a salesperson, is a marketer. It's here to make the sale, to make the deal, yeah, that's kind of the energy that's there. And so mine is 26.1. I am in the basement. I'm investigating all this stuff. And as I look, I compare, I compete. I do that. I often bring things to Belle. I'm like, look at what this person is doing and look at this and that. Like I'm always collecting data for how people are marketing themselves and what's happening there. And look at how much money this person has made. It's like super motivating for me, not necessarily for Bella, but I have to share my enthusiasm and excitement with her. And I've been looking at all the ways that we tend to market. And because Bella's the fourth line and she also has a motivation of hope, we tend to talk about the opportunity. We tend to talk about gene keys, human design, the what of things, but we don't tend to talk to the problem. We don't tend to talk to the why. And that's not a problem. That's just like what naturally comes out of us. That's what we're excited to share about. And I know that sometimes when people market, yeah, go ahead.
We do speak about the why, but in a very visionary way, because I'm a sixth line, Ashley has fifth and sixth line. So we do speak about the why, but we are saying in order for you to be more empowered, so it's not a tangible why. And that's why it kind of more feels like a what. And then like everything you say with opportunity, like, of course, if you have hope, you're going to speak about the opportunity. If you have hope and speak about the problem, it's going to make you go into transference and fixing.
Let's fix it. Yeah, with the guilt.
The opportunity and the vision of why, not the tangible why, like bullet points 1, 2, 3, which is what the 1-3 profile and the first line would like to have. No, we are on the other level saying like it's going to change, but we can't tell you like the bullet points of it.
Yeah. And don't make yourself wrong for like how you market or how you speak, because honestly, what comes out naturally without feeling the pressure of, I need to use this system and I need to like have things laid out like this. You are feeling the pressure of the way that people market. You're feeling the pressure of the way that people get out there, get it done, make the sale. All the bro marketing strategies and techniques are kind of dying now. So we're finding new ways to sell, but it's not really selling anymore. And the higher frequency of the 26 is heart marketing. So I feel naturally right now I want to talk about business because we were talking about health, relationships, and business, and I just feel that coming up naturally. I've been investigating what it is, for me to market and what feels good in our business and how to sell and how to do. The 26 loves a deal. It's going to search for deals. So playing around with sales and all that stuff and opportunities for people to jump in at a different price point than the normal. And what I've been noticing is I'm a 5-1. And so I'm here to provide solutions or at least point out, the problem. I have fear motivation. And that's basically representative kind of like the line 1 energy as well. But this is like fear for me, it's not like, what do you need? It's not a fourth line. Like, this is what you need. It's more like, let me look at this boat. Are there holes in this boat? Oh, I'm not going to get in this boat because it's going to sink. So the way that I usually speak in my 5-1 says, we need to do this before 2027. My biggest thing, and I feel like part of my underlying mission is I want everybody to live their design. I want everybody to find their naturalness and to have peace of being who they are, so that when 2027 comes, we are all feeling empowered and we are not, deeply conditioned and controlled by the powers that be and the other authorities, that we kind of lose our spark. We lose who we are. And we're just these homogenized monkeys that just press buttons and move the business machine forward of, the United States or wherever you're living. So I really have it in my heart to wake up people. And I have the 51. I want to wake up people. I want to shock people. I want to say things that like get people like, whoa, I want to wake people up. And that's kind of like, that's what my 5-1 likes to do too. And I have the 51 and the 26. So I'm going to transmit my message to wake people up because I have the 44 and the 26. That's what defines my ego. So I want to speak to my fractal, and if you're kind of in our field, then you're part of our fractal. So,
and you're gonna shock people a bit, and you're gonna have a lot of energy. I remember my mom was saying, when I watch Ashley, I get so much energy. It's so much fun because it's so dynamic between you two. And then there was somebody on our YouTube that said, like, that crazy woman who's like,
super excited.
So excited. And that's the cool, like the 16 and the 51 together, it makes that, it's very exciting. But the cool thing with that is that you have both of those, the 16 and the 51, in the 6th line. So you always have a perspective of it. If you didn't have the perspective, I would probably also be a little bit tired of it. But the 6th line is it's just that then it like opens it always opens something new when you kind of go off on a tangent, which feels...
And I go on a tangent pretty frequently. I think the main message I wanted to say about business is, market the way that feels right for you. Don't feel like you need to follow these like consistent posting and make sure that every single day you're going to exhaust yourself. If you don't have a defined will or even a defined sacral, you might not have the energy because maybe you don't have any motors defined. How are you going to show up every single day to the world like that? Because somebody said it's important to post content every day. It's important to connect every single day and do it in this way. And you're boxing yourself in, and you're trying to use a strategy that maybe wasn't created for your energy type, maybe wasn't created for your design. So I say, try things out, find the thing that's best for you. And if you have an undefined ego center, you're probably going to need to bounce ideas off of other people when you're trying to figure out what to price things as, because oftentimes you'll very much price it super low. Not because you feel like you're unworthy, but it's just you want to serve the other people in a way. And so I think it's going to be important for those with an undefined will center that are operating, in an entrepreneurial business. Ask somebody else. This is what's in my program. This is what I'm thinking about pricing it. What do you think? And then get that feedback. Because obviously, if you underprice it and you put it out to your audience, they're going to be like, yeah, because they're going to feel like it's a deal. Let me grab this. And it's not always great, because what we've learned over time in pricing things for ourselves, and I've made mistakes in the past. Actually, they weren't mistakes, where I was charging $15 for human design readings when I was first learning. And I had so many people book in, like, this is so cool. And then at the end, I was like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I was not valuing myself and my time accordingly, and I had to keep raising my prices. And that's why our human design and gene key prices are kind of up there as well, because me and Bella, we put so much energy into our readings. It's not just spitting out the facts of what we know. We put our whole life force into the reading, and we draw on everything that we've learned, as well as our intuitive skills and gifts. So you have to learn how to charge for that, because you're going to undervalue the things that aren't tangible in a way. And I feel like when you're a spiritual entrepreneur, it's really hard also to price yourself, to charge for yourself, because it's pretty new for people to buy services in this realm. And if you're going to be, you got to be a trailblazer. You got to kind of like set the pace, and I don't know, I have a defined will speaking here. So
yeah, there were two things I was thinking about. What was the first thing? Yeah, it doesn't come to me now.
We'll go into the open head and ajna another time.
Thing is the undervalued. Like because even if it's good to, like Ashley said, to have that sounding board, but important is that when you have sold something or launched some things, and you feel undervalued, like you do a reading with somebody for 2 hours, and then you go off and your life force is off for that day, whether you are a generator or whatever you are. Like if you feel frustrated because you're drained, or you feel even bitter that you gave away so much, or if you feel disappointed that the person didn't feel more grateful or didn't get it as you were hoping, if you're a reflector, if you're even angry, like this is not worth it, if you're a manifester, like you are gonna, when you feel that signature of the not self, and you feel like you haven't been valued. And that's the thing, when we speak about the ego, it's a lot about money. So when you feel like the exchange, like we say with the ego, nothing is for free. Nothing is for free. If somebody has a defined ego and they do something for you, even if they say that they're not expecting anything back, they are. Because that's the way the ego works. It's that thing. So if the exchange doesn't feel good, then you're going to feel undervalued. And then we are, I think that there's loops that with especially the undefined ego, we get stuck in those loops trying to figure out how to feel valued. And if that's like, when you go down that trail, it's almost like impossible. Both, I mean, in relationships, in business, both of them. So it's much more about following your strategy and authority. And for me, it's like, I am a big yes to working with a ego hub weeks before we are going to do this webinar. If Ashley says the night before, oh, I haven't done the slides, I'll do them in the morning, and and everything's last minute, like there's nothing in me, like I have resistance the whole day to even like look at it and start with it, because last minute for me, there's no energy. And I do it because I have to do it, because I went to school for 20 years and I have those deadlines. But it's really for me to understand that it's, when you are a generator and you're pushing against resistance, I would say that's when you are tearing yourself apart the most. Like, if you think about even, I don't even know what example to take, but electricity, like that's where it is good resistance. Like when you push with something that doesn't want to be pushed, it's like just mechanics. It's going to wear you out. That's what I wanted to say. So make sure that you're following your strategy and authority when you are doing your work in the world. Because you're probably, we all have some kind of commitment and determination, but it needs to come from us responding to life, or from us following our strategy and authority.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I feel like I'd love to talk about, like you mentioned, relationships and how the ego can show up in there as well.
I have a lot of defined egos around me. Like well, my parents both had open egos, and I think they had their own ways of dealing with that. But actually, you have a defined ego. My partner has a defined ego. Brandy, who we're working more with now, has a defined ego. And there is something with that it just feels somehow that I'm not going to underprice myself when you guys are around, and that feels good, or And then I also know that I have to be careful with the pressure that comes from that, and how you could be like, oh, it's good because with some pressure, Bella is going to do everything to like get out of the pressure, kind of with the open route a little bit. Like,
I love pressure. I love last minute things. I'm like alive in the energy, and I had to learn to respect Bella, and it couldn't be the night before. It had to be at least a day, so that she had the day to look over the slides or whatever it is. And then the next day we're going to do it. But it had to be a good period of time. Like I couldn't do things like a week in advance. I don't know. I just don't do that. I like the pressure. I like the stress, but it's detrimental to her. And especially in things that are like, I don't know, certain things that we've done, they matter more to Bella than other things. Like sometimes I can get away with doing it last minute because it's so easy. Like we can do it in our sleep. Someone wake us up, be like, oh yeah, we're going to talk about this. But other things, it's like, no, then we need more time. And yeah,
that's my conditioning, slides, something that could potentially go wrong. And I'm a 4/6, so I'm very visionary, and I'm also all about perfection. So something that I feel, because we do it last minute, could go wrong, then it's a no. But if it's something that can't really go wrong, like you say, so it's important there to look at your conditioning and what is it? What is that friction for you? And then you can also more easily find the solution. And I think that in relationship is important. Me learning to say pressure is not ideal for me. That has been huge. Before, I thought I worked super well in the pressure, because when you go to business school, and I did my business school like 2 years instead of 4 years, like you would say I'm amazing under pressure. But that doesn't, like when you learn about human design and you know how much anxiety or like angst inside of me that I have, and you know how I felt like those 2 years were like not worth living, and I was just pushing through to have that paper with a signature. It was 1,000,000% not self-ego. And I did it for the tribe. I did it because my dad expected me to go to school, and I hadn't done it when I was 19. So I had to go back to it when I was 24, which I just, being with that tribe of that business school with all the rich kids. And I was 24. I had my own company, had my own company with 14 employees. And they were kids of like, rich kids that have been like protected their whole life. Like for me, that was not the people that I wanted to aspire to something greater with. It was stupid with having case studies when you've already done it in real life and you did it in French instead of, English or Swedish, what I was doing in business school. So it is important to understand that just because you did it in a certain way and you managed to do it doesn't mean that it was right for you. That's important, because like you were saying in the beginning, Ashley, the pressure from the ego is immense, and we're going to find ways of coping with it, but it doesn't mean that those ways are healthy for us. And that brings us back to that thing of health. Really, it's the health that's going to go, it's going to go back to, and it's going to little by little eat you out. The more that we can go in a little bit more to it later, but the way that you digest life has to do with things here. And when you do a lot of those things that you're not supposed to digest, it's going to be not good for your gallbladder. It's going to be not good for your health. So you're here to digest your unique mix of things and to say yes to your unique gift mix of things. And these are connected to the gifts that you have in the world. And that is how we're building together. That is how the heart muscle gets stronger in a good way, instead of depleting yourself, trying to prove things to yourself or trying to not be undervalued. And I often see that's the last thing I'm going to say. When we have the intake forms, we have a kind of extensive intake form for our readings. And that's both for defined or undefined egos, but that thing of not having been seen or valued in your childhood. And that sets up the perfect kind of the perfect foundation for you to continue to prove yourself and trying to be valued and staying in relationships because you feel like you're valued. Or somebody was saying in the chat too, there are gates that are bridging and you kind of feel more complete just because it feels like there is some way that you're valued for something that might not even be the things that you like doing or that you naturally would do.
Yeah, I think the level of self-awareness that these systems give us is really beautiful. And I'm super grateful for that. And in knowing in relationships, like what is defined in your partner, you're going to be able to sense it energetically, but just to have these maps, like for example, Bella may have been able to sense my defined will, ego, and she likes that. So she attracts that as well because it's something she values. So that's why she also attracts that in her partner, in me, in other people as well. And she's here to become wise about that. But it's important for each person to kind of know that we're not the same. So we can't put pressure on the other to be us because they're not us and nobody is like us. So it's important, especially in the relationship, to communicate, like saying no, in the relationship, saying no, and knowing that, it's not going to make you less worthy in the relationship. If you say, no, I can't do that. No, I'm not committing to that. No, I need to relax. Yeah.
I have a really fun, this is something I've thought about sometimes because, you said we compare, sometimes I compare and I'm like, somebody else is doing so much less. And I can't understand it with an open ego. Like, how can you be happy with yourself when you're doing so much less than I am? Or how can you be fine with not doing better? And that's what I see in defined egos. Like, you're fine. You don't care. If Ash, if you don't care about one of the programs we're doing or one of the things, it's almost like you don't care. And even sometimes with me, I hear you say, I'm sorry, but I hear you don't even feel that you're sorry. Actually, you don't care. And I'm like, how is that possible? You make me know that, that there's something that you're feeling bad from because I didn't do. I feel like I'm dying.
My heart has to be in it. If my heart's not in it, I don't care. And it's not even my identity. It's like my will. Because if my heart's not in it and I'm like, yeah, let's do that. My will is activated. Then I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it, And Bella and I are working on a new program that we'll be launching later. And I had a lot of resistance to it before because I was like, oh, this is going to be like the same as we did it before. And then she's like, oh no, but I'm going to bring in my friend and she has this skill. It's amazing. She's a 512. And I'm like, I don't know. I still don't feel it. And then when we started to talk about it the other day and we had a new spin on it and the marketing came in for it, almost like what's the experience around it? How can I sell it? I'm like, ooh, this sounds fun. I want to be in this container. When before I was like, oh my God, how boring, And now I'm like, ooh, yes, let's do that. Let's sell this. Let's like make this container. And I suddenly had the will to do it, but it took a while. It took some, persuading and reorganizing, and like Bella's persistence. Like she's like, I want to do it. Why don't you want to do it? And she'd always come to me and be like, can we talk about this now? And I'm like, oh, dang it. And then, can we talk about this now? And so we'd keep developing it. And then finally it kind of landed. I was like, okay, as long as like, if she really wants to do something, we persist, and she has the 38-28. So she's going to be stubborn as one. She's like, no, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. I just need to get Ashley on board. And she's like, often says, if I don't have your support behind it, then everything like dies and it falls apart. And I'm like, oh. Then I feel guilty. And I'm like, oh shit, I don't want our business to fall apart. So you can see how all these dynamics go together, where it's like, everybody just wants, like, we want what we want, right? The whole control thing. Everybody just wants what they want. And we're going to like make other people see what we want. I do that to Bella. She does it to me. But at the end, like, we still create something really fun, but it's like, we're both stubborn. So when we meet resistance, we're like, oh, and so we have to sell it to each other. And sometimes my shit doesn't make sense. And she's like, she'll say yes. You're like, wait a second, Ashley, because I could be really convincing. And I can also inflate my worth a lot, because that's what the defined ego can do. I'm like, yeah, this is so worth it. This is like, we should charge this much for it. And she's like, I don't know. So I don't know.
Remember that we are maybe going to go into the gates, but the 26 is going to exaggerate. It's going to say, this is the best deal. And all your neighbors, if you buy this car, are going to like look at your car. And we also have the best mechanics in town. If anything would happen, like they are going to sell it to you. And the ego really likes to feel like it's getting on. Like what really the ego gets high on, it's like, yeah, we're getting on. We have a better car now. We have a better house. Like it is the material plane. So it's going to feel good when it feels like it got the deal. So when the hypnotist, the 26, can sell the deal, it's a win-win. Because everybody's on, God forbid that you then realize that you were fooled. But that's why the 26.
Don't worry, I'm not a used car salesman.
We don't want the boring salesman. Like we don't want the boring salesman. We want the salesman that makes us excited about what we're buying, and that goes back to the business coaches and even some of the mystery around some of the offers, because it's like they are selling it in a way that makes people excited and feeling like I have to have this. This is something I cannot not have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they're like the salesman, the hypnotist is. I mean, it's going to mesmerize you. It's going to get you to make the sale. And these are, if you've ever been to trade shows and stuff where they're like in front of you cutting with the knife that you're going to buy. You're like, whoa, it cuts so well. Look at how sharp it is. And they're like, and for the next 5 minutes, you're going to get this knife and a second knife, and it's going to be reduced in this price. You're like, oh my God, how could I not do this? And it gets those poor bastards that have a defined emotional center. And they're like, oh my God, I got to buy it. And then they're like, oh, what the fuck did I buy 2 knives for? I don't need knives. I have a bunch of knives at home. But you didn't wait. You didn't follow your strategy and authority. And the persuasion of the hypnotist, it got you. So that's why you need to follow your strategy and authority. Don't jump on the emotional wave because somebody's like, ooh, it's pretty. You're going to like it.
My dad used to do that with TV Shop. It was called when I was a child. He has open ego as well. And we had like all these abs machines and things that he just bought. We called on the phone at that time. And my mom was much more discerning. She was like, what? Where are you going to even make of these things? And then he would use them like for 2 weeks, and then they were just around. And so, yeah. It's very true.
I bet you he bought that at the beginning of the year where we had all those root gates, and it was like everybody's on a kick of like, I'm going to get healthy. I'm going to get healthy. We're going to lose weight. We're going to get muscles. Yeah, everybody tends to buy gym memberships and all that stuff in the beginning of the year because the New Year's resolutions is something that they sell. Same thing how they like sell Valentine's Day and they sell St. Patrick's Day. They're like, yeah, go out and drink some green beer for St. Patrick's Day, or go buy candy for your loved one on Valentine's Day.
And for Valentine's, you feel like if you don't do it, it's almost like you're proving to
I'm
your
not worthy.
You don't love them.
Yeah, I don't love them, and it's not worth it to be in a relationship with me, so I need to wow them. And then let me also say this, like, imagine in the beginning of the relationship with somebody, you have an open ego and you really go above and beyond, and you're like buying them gifts and like taking them on romantic dates. And then over time, you're like, I'm so exhausted doing this. And then you can't not do it because they expect it. And you don't want to say like, oh, I'm so tired of doing this and stuff. Yeah, that's a little thing that you get yourself into. You know, people have expectations of you, and there's nothing worse for an open ego than having expectations placed on them, or an undefined ego. Yeah. I like this hub. I have something to say too for those of you that are in the Zoom container with us. I know that I saw some questions in the chat. If you would like these questions answered, please put it in the Q&A, because we're going to end the live stream soon, and we'll answer your questions since you're here in the Zoom room with us. And we have a super killer, spectacular deal for you.
Is there any way that the people that are online watching the streaming, like if they are super interested in this deal, like is there like a little way in for them, or is it done?
Oh, Bella, I want people in the Zoom container. If you want the deal, message Bella or unlock your design.
Yeah, message.
Wait, is this something design. You want to commit to and promise? What if
it's a good deal? So I think
it is a crazy good deal. Like Bella's been pushing me for certain things, and I'm like, no. And then I think 2 days ago, I'm like, Bella, what if we did this? And she's like, I knew she was going to say yes too, because she's like, yeah, hopefully Ashley still wants to do this. So there's a deal. I'm excited for you.
And Ashley, would you just say to people a little bit more about, because today was very much like a conversation. The other times we opened the hub, we went into the slides and we looked at each gate, or we had people choose a gate. So what can people expect from like the intensive, just a little bit, like both foresight for the people that are in and for the people that are watching, like if they want to come with us next week, what's the ride? What are we doing?
Yeah. Well, normally we're a bit more focused in our teaching as well. But this felt really good and very different than the other ones. So I'm kind of glad we did it in this way. But I think that what we're going to be doing is next week, we're going to be going into the Ego Hub together inside the inner circle. We have some amazing members that are super interactive and that are really diving deep into their centers. So there's a possibility for community. There's a possibility for you to be able to post and to contemplate together and to share in your similarities. And on Tuesday, we're going to be doing an embodiment webinar where we're going to enter into the Ego Hub through the body. And you're not going to be getting the teaching of the Ego Hub until Wednesday. So the first place we go is the body. And then the second place we go, and that's about an hour. The second place we'll go is teaching about the Ego Hub. So we're going to be talking about defined, undefined. Things will be structured a little bit better. Here we were like talking about things and pulling them in. Here it'll be sequential in a way. And Bella and I will probably also go really deep into the gates as well. And then we're doing chart reading. So if you join the inner circle, you have the possibility to have your chart read, and we'll be going into the Ego Hub. Actually, let me show you. I'm talking about this and it's like right here. So I'll just show you a picture for those of you that are visual. Here we go. Wait, is it showing it? Yes, here you go. Here you go. For those of you that are left variable and want things in list, and like me, I love to see things in this way. So March 14th through the 18th, we're going to be going into the Ego Hub. So you're going to get access, if you join the inner circle, to our Facebook community. There's going to be a portal in our academy that has everything listed and posted for this Ego Hub. You're also going to have discussion prompts. That's from last time, Intuitive Games, where there's going to be an embodiment webinar. Oh, I didn't change these. Oh my gosh. The teaching, the chart readings, and whatever else we decide to bring through. And there's also going to be the possibility, like I said, for you to get that free chart reading. We also have included in your inner circle membership, we have the vault, which has a bunch of amazing resources, videos, things from the past. We have some courses in there. There's a lot packed into the vault. So that's included with your inner circle membership. This is what the Academy portal looks like. This was the Splenic Hub. So here's everything in here. You'll be able to watch the videos. There was a workbook, lots of stuff. The people that are in the inner circle can attest that, these intensives are really cool, amazing. So if you're interested in doing this, you can join bit.ly/innercircle-44. Did you want to offer the special to everyone, Bella, or do you want them to like reach out to you?
No, don't reach out to me. I don't want more work. Find a way for them to sneak in.
Okay, fine. Message Unlock Your Design if you want the super awesome deal that you aren't going to know about. So we kind of require initiative on your part. So if you really want to join and you want to take advantage of the super awesome special deal that we're not going to tell you about until you send a PM to us, Unlock Your Design, I'll go in there and I'll give you the code and we'll get you in the inner circle. If you're watching live. But for those of you that are on with us in the Zoom room, we're going to end the live stream soon, and we will answer some of your questions. But I really hope that you'll join us for our Thrive by Design journey into the Ego Hub next week. And if you're interested, reach out. And thank you for joining us today. And for those of you that are inside the Zoom container, stay with us and we'll answer some of your questions and we'll give you the